The Catatumbo region of Colombia, a place known for its beautiful land and hardworking people, is now in the news for a very sad reason. A huge crisis is hurting a lot of people there. More than 32,000 people, almost everyone living in a small town, have had to leave their homes in the past few weeks. This wasn't caused by a natural disaster but by something much worse. A terrible war between groups fighting for power and control over drugs. Catatumbo, located near Venezuela, has been a place where coca plants used to make drugs are grown and then moved to other countries. It's far away and easy to hide in, which makes it perfect for these bad groups. This recent violence shows us that peace in Colombia is very fragile. Colombia is still trying to recover from a very long war, and this new violence makes things even harder. The worst of the fighting is happening in Tibu, where two groups, the ELN and parts of the FARC, are fighting each other. These groups used to believe in the same things, but now, they only care about power and money. The real victims are the innocent people stuck in the middle of this war. As the fighting gets worse, the Colombian government needs to do something quickly. Other countries are worried too, because this could make things unstable and cause even more problems. The big question is, can Colombia, a country that has been trying hard to find peace, stop this new war and give hope to the people suffering because of it? When we hear about thousands of people forced to leave their homes, it sounds really bad. But behind those numbers are real stories of families torn apart, living in fear, and not knowing what will happen next. Imagine having to leave your home with only the clothes you're wearing, not knowing if you'll ever go back. Sadly, this is the reality for thousands in Catatumbo. Their lives have been destroyed by the sound of gunfire and the constant threat of violence. Many young children are now without homes because of this conflict. They've seen terrible things that no child should ever see. Their childhoods are filled with fear and uncertainty. Older people are also suffering. Many are separated from their families and are too frail to handle the difficult journey to safety. Escaping the violence is dangerous. Families, many with young children, have to travel through dangerous jungles and cross rivers, always afraid of being attacked. Those who make it to safety often end up in crowded shelters where there isn't enough food or supplies, and the future is uncertain. The emotional and physical pain from this conflict will last long after the fighting stops. What's happening in Catatumbo reminds us of the terrible cost of war. Behind the news stories are real people whose lives have been shattered. Their stories need to be heard, and the world needs to help. Other countries must come together to provide aid and support the Colombian government in finding a peaceful solution. To understand the fighting in Catatumbo, we need to understand the groups involved. Two groups are at the center of it all. The ELN, a group that wants to change the government, and parts of the FARC, a group that didn't want to stop fighting when others did. Both groups are involved in the drug trade, taking advantage of Catatumbo's location and the lack of government control. The ELN, with around 5,000 fighters, has been in Catatumbo for a long time. They scare people into doing what they want. They take money from farmers, control the roads used to move drugs, and make people afraid of them. FARC dissidents, smaller groups that don't always agree with each other, make things even more complicated. Sometimes it's about their beliefs, sometimes it's about money, and sometimes it's about getting revenge. The current violence is because the ELN wants all the power in Catatumbo, but some FARC groups want it too. The result is a brutal fight with innocent people caught in the middle. Both groups use violence and fear to get what they want. They hurt community leaders, take money from businesses, and even force children to fight for them. This fighting isn't just about ideas or land, it's about money. Catatumbo, with its coca fields and its location near Venezuela, is a perfect place to send drugs to other countries. The ELN and FARC dissidents are like criminal businesses pretending to be something else. They use money from drugs to buy weapons, get more fighters, and become more powerful. As long as the drug trade continues, so will the violence in Catatumbo. The Colombian government is facing a difficult choice. They need to stop the violence, but they also need to find a way to talk to these groups and make peace. President Gustavo Petro, who was once a fighter himself, promised to bring peace to Colombia. But the situation in Catatumbo makes this promise very difficult to keep. Recently, the government sent over 5,000 soldiers to the region to fight the ELN and FARC dissidents. They declared a state of emergency, which gives the government more power to act quickly. But using the military alone won't bring lasting peace. The mountains, the presence of civilians, and the way these groups hide make it almost impossible to win just by fighting. President Petro has also been trying to talk to the ELN to find a peaceful solution. But the recent violence has made this very difficult. The government says the ELN isn't being honest, and they've started arresting ELN leaders involved in the talks. This makes it hard to know if peace is possible. The government has also asked Venezuela for help, as they believe Venezuela is protecting some ELN members. But many people don't think Venezuela will help. The situation in Catatumbo shows us how hard it is to achieve peace in Colombia. While the military is needed to protect people, the government also needs a plan to fix the problems that caused the violence in the first place. This means stopping the drug trade, making sure the government has control in these areas, and giving people better opportunities. If these problems aren't addressed, the violence will likely continue, destroying more lives and dreams.